Hello, this is Juniper of Soul V Studio, and welcome to my backyard. Polarity. The polarity of sympathy and antipathy has been something that I came across about 9 years ago or something, and to me, it's something that it's always coming up. I should have, maybe I'll do that for a future video, is look up in the book of how it was described, and I can't even remember. Maybe it was The Philosophy of Freedom, or I have to find out even which book it's in, because it's been that long since I've read it. But, so you have sympathy and antipathy. And then another component is, like, the balancing point of sympathy and antipathy is equanimity. Okay, sympathy is when you're in agreement with something. When you're in agreement with something, when you like something, when you love something, when you have positive feelings about something. Antipathy is something that you don't like, something that you don't agree with, or something that you dislike, or even that you hate. So you have all of these polarities that can line up with sympathy and antipathy. And equanimity is kind of the balancing point. So if you think of scales, as we're in Libra season for a couple more days, think of the scales being balanced. That becomes, generally when we're entering the end of a sign, as in the sign of Libra, which is represented by the scales, the intensity of the scales, or the intensity of the message for that sign, increases. So as we come to the end of this season of balance, equanimity, being in the middle of the like and the dislike, may be a bit more tested. But those polarities of anything, love and hate, especially with this Venus retrograde that's going on, this, I love this part of myself, I hate this part of myself, or the judgmental and the acceptance, or any of those polarities that need to be balanced, that won't ever be perfectly balanced all of the time. So it's a daily thing that we need to allow space and time for, is to notice if there's any dissatisfaction in our life. The dissatisfaction has a big range. But it's also, I was reading an ebook. All my textbooks are ebooks, and there's this highlighter option, so you can highlight definitions or little passages or things, so it's easier to find later on, and it makes a list of the things that you highlight. But dissatisfaction is kind of like a highlighter in your life. If it's something that stays with you, of not appreciating something, of not being in complete agreement with an aspect, it highlights that situation or circumstance or something in your life, and offers you the opportunity to find out why you don't like something. So I know this may sound really, really silly, but from when I was a child until I was in my mid-20s, I could not stand the color pink. There was not a shade of pink that I thought was pretty. I avoided pink at all costs. And it's a very feminine color, so I haven't quite come to the bottom of why I didn't like the color pink. I just know I didn't, and it could have been from way back in my childhood, when my sister and I were always given gifts, and often they were identical gifts, but I got the blue and purple version, and she got the pink version because she was younger than me. But I don't think that that's why I don't like the color pink. But it is something I need to explore. Anyways, so 20 years of my life, like the beginning of my life, I did not like the color pink. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh no, if I have a girl, my house is going to be flooded with pink. And even though we got one ultrasound done, we chose not to find out the gender. And at the moment of her birth, well, the first, I think, totally being honest, I think for the first minute or two that I could actually see her in a body outside of my body, I was so stunned that I couldn't, like, function. I just lay there and just stared and just was kind of paralyzed. And then it dawned on me that, oh yeah, is this child a boy or a girl? Like, I had no idea. And she was a girl. So up until that point, all of the gifts that we had been given and everything, they were neutral colors, which, you know, greens and yellows and whites, things like that, which was lovely. But then when she was born a few weeks away from Christmas, so the pink just flooded in my life. And I don't know, it was something. So it was a bit of adjustment for me, because at that moment we didn't have a ton of extra money, so she had good clothing that was pink. And so instead of like, oh, I don't like pink, and so I'm gonna get rid of it all, I was just like, okay, yeah, she's gonna wear pink. So in that process, she ended up, from about the age of 3 until 7, loved the color pink. That was her favorite color for so long. But what's interesting now is that she doesn't like pink at all. Doesn't have any clothing that's pink. Doesn't like anything at all pink. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. But there are these things in your life that you don't like for some reason. And whatever reason that is, but it just depends. I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you find something that you don't like, why don't you like it? And is it something that really matters? You know? As a child also, I didn't like to eat eggs. I didn't like them. And I was told to eat them. So I ate them. And when I moved out, I stopped eating them. But then it was kind of a funny adventure, but we drove down to Seattle with our backpacks and spent the night down there. And we were going to go hiking for a few days on the Olympic Peninsula, just backpacking around. And so we left Seattle really early in the morning, like 4 in the morning or some crazy thing, so we can get a full day hiking in. And it was a couple-hour drive from Seattle over to the Olympic Peninsula, because we were going right on the ridge above the Hoh Rainforest. Is that the right name? And then Mount Olympus was right there, just like boom. So pretty. And we stopped at this little cafe because we left so early, nothing was really open, and I had just the classic breakfast. They didn't have a very big menu, so I ate eggs. And it was terrible. For the first time, I got sick from eating eggs. And so then finally it made sense. I was like, that's why, ever since I was a child, I didn't like eggs, because my body was telling me that it's not for me to eat. I didn't realize growing up that I had a slight allergy to eggs, and as I've gotten older, it's kind of gotten worse. But any of the aversions to foods or things that you don't like, there's potentially a reason. And I have nothing against eggs. I mean, I have them in my house, and my son doesn't like to eat them. My daughter loves to eat them, so. But there's the things in your life that you don't like, such as colors or foods or situations or circumstances. It's good to figure out the why. Why don't you like it? Well, maybe it's just not, oh, sorry, bug, the right thing for me. Nothing against the color pink. Nothing against the hardworking chickens who provide eggs. You know, nothing against any of that. It's not. But there is something to it. I kind of lost my train of thought. So in this whole dynamic of sympathy and antipathy, I guess the other aspect, the other balancing aspect would be the things that you really do like. Why do you like it? I like a lot of things that most people don't. You know, the beading and the sewing by hand and the spinning and the knitting and the crocheting and the drawing. Like, those are all things that when I'm out and about knitting or whatever, people are just, oh, it's so nice that you can do that, but I just don't have the patience. I just don't have the time or the... So the things that really resonate with me, for some reason, are the old school things that people have been doing for ages and ages and ages. I don't know why. I find it really soothing. But some people, it's not something that they enjoy. It's too... But then they have their own things that they really enjoy doing. And who knows what that is? I mean, it could be anything. So I guess sympathy and antipathy, that polarity of the things that resonate well with you and the things that don't resonate with you, that you're not attracted to, it gives you an opportunity to get to know yourself better. But always ask the why. Why do I love something? And if it's the things that you love, how can you incorporate more of that into your week? And if it's something that you don't really like, how can you have it so there's less of that thing in your life? Blessings on your day.